where 12 years of coaching championships meets real-world leadership. Coach Clark broke through at the highest levels. Now he's bringing you the playbook. Every week, real leaders, real wins. Real strategies you can use Monday morning. If you're done with theory and ready for results, this is your show. You in? Let's go!
All righty, everyone. Welcome to the Ask the Coach Live. I am your host, Aaron Clark, a.k.a. The Coach. Welcome to those of you that are here watching live and they kind of wanting to kick it to you guys to see what you may have that y'all want to cover. And so I'm doing a couple of things. I did not get as prepared. Been on a couple of different calls, presentations throughout the day. I had a last second opportunity to present on the Sell More Challenge. So for those of you who are on here, that just know that you will see me that on there this Thursday. I'll be hosting the leadership panel. So they were having a quick one and they said, hey, why don't you go ahead and just host today's call? And I said, awesome. That's what we're going to do. You know, and I felt that was kind of the great thing about leadership in general and together is just how fluid it is all the time. You know, that you're constantly moving from thing to thing, from spot to spot. But the one that I kind of really wanted to talk about is I did have a question that was asked of me, you know, about holding your team accountable and holding your people accountable. Stop. And whenever you do that, what do you do if people become defensive? So if your team or somebody on your team becomes defensive, what do you do about that? And so there's a couple of different things that you can look for with that. And I know that's one that I always looked at is why, you know, why were they being defensive? What was it that got defensive? And then I kind of want to be able to label that. What does it mean if you are defensive? And what can be some of the things that cause that employee to be defensive? And so that first thing that I want to go through and do is what does it mean to be defensive? Like, is it true defensiveness? Or is it confusion? There is a difference between being defensive and being confused. Are they being or do they feel embarrassed? Is it a fear of losing status? What exactly does that person mean when they say they're being defensive? So as you're holding your people accountable, that's one of the things that you have to do. But what is it are we defining as true defensiveness? Is it something where they're constantly every time, and welcome Joshua, welcome Twizzler, great to have you guys on. Like, are they really like everything they do is right? Or does it mean that they just don't understand? So we've got to be able to determine that first. So one thing I would get you to check before you do that is to what is your delivery like when you're holding the person accountable? Okay. So check that first. So, I was picking on the other day, I was picking on Tom. And so let's pick on Tom again. Tom wasn't turning his receipts. So am I coming in and saying, hey, Tom, you no good for nothing, blah, 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 fill in the blank? Well, of course, chances are if I'm coming in with that attitude and I'm attacking them as a person, I usually give them a box and directions to the exit. So, but are you coming in and are you attacking the person's behavior? So as you're trying to hold them accountable, the first thing that I want to ask is, are you attacking their behavior? Are you the one coming in leading with emotion? That was this that correction public? One of my whenever I was a regional manager, I had a director that was having trouble with a certain employee, and whenever they would talk to me, they were like, every time that I go to correct this certain employee, that they always give me trouble. They always fight back. They get so defensive. And kind of my first question was, well, where does this take place and how are you doing it? And so they told me, well, it turns out that this person was at the front desk. And it seemed like every time that they went to correct them at the front desk, that was when the problem occurred. And it was, and they saw it as being in front of other people. So we just adjusted the setting. That's all we did. We took them, hey, instead of talking to them at the front desk, they ask them if they can come into your office for a minute. They get somebody to cover the front desk, and then they make those changes. They make that correction. Now, so I mean, because I then started evaluating what was their emotional state like when they were delivering the correction, and the manager wasn't doing anything wrong. They were just, hey, person so and so, that whenever this happens, can we get this to happen instead? And it was calm. It was very calm. It was collected. But the other person saw it as, hey, you're humiliating me in front of other people because it was done at the front desk. Made a quick switch. That no problem with that person anymore. Yeah. What's my time worth opposed to that employee retention? That's something you gotta look at too. But what's easier to retain an employee who's a good employee, and that employee has still been with the company now. They were with the company 4 years up to that point and have been there now almost 10 years. So, I mean, keeping a good employee is definitely worth figuring out why certain actions are happening the way they are. The next thing I would say when you're holding somebody accountable is to separate identity from performance. Okay. This is a tough one. So, whenever I do it, I like to just ask simple yes or no questions. And it's usually, hey, since I was picking on Tom with his receipts, Tom, did you turn in the receipts when you were supposed to on time? Yes or no? No emotion about it. It's a simple yes or no question. Did we do it or did we not do it? And so when you start to separate it and make it a, hey, let's just look at this real quick. Hey, we were supposed to make 10 widgets by Friday. Today's Friday. 6 widgets have been made. Did we make 10 widgets? No. Okay. So now we've got, we're able to separate that. So I've removed them from it. Let's just look at it objectively. Did we do it? Yes or no? It was one of my favorite things whenever I was coaching, how I was, and here's one that I would say, if you haven't read the book, The Inner Game of Tennis, I would say, and that's actually it right here. And so for those of you on TikTok, that's it right there. It really goes through and talks. That's one of the things it talks about as a coach, is being able to separate outcomes and as opposed to identifying with things as good or bad. So instead of saying that, hey, this was a good result, this was a bad result, it just came into, hey, this was the result. And so doing that as a person feels attacked, or if they're becoming defensive whenever you're trying to hold them accountable, again, it's just to go back to hey, we were supposed to make 10 widgets by Friday. Did we make 10 widgets? And that's all we're establishing right here. Is did the job get done? Yes or no? This is not an attack. I'm not attacking Tom. I'm just asking the question, did we do this? Yes or no? And when you're able to get them to tell you a yes or no, and here's what's going to naturally happen at first. When you're new to this, they're naturally going to start going, no, but let me tell you, stop. All I want to know is, did we do it? They're going to come up with their excuses. Let it be. So the next thing you want to do, if you do have that employee as labeled as defensive, so hey, instead of why didn't you get this done, the next question should be, as you're going through, so tell me what happened. What was it that we, what obstacles did we face? What were things that we overcame or that we had to overcome? Tell me the situation going around. And so one that I remember is because I was managing the sales team, that I got asked by my superiors about one of my locations and said, hey, they didn't hit their goal. And they're on it. And I was like, hey, they're gonna come back. They're gonna bounce back in the next one. Just relax. And then they finally, as my boss was, they on me about it. I went, dude, that they were short, that they were missing half of their sales team. That one of them that was down, they had to have emergency surgery. And the other one, they found out that their spouse has cancer. And so knowing this, because I was talking to the director over there and knowing the situation going on, that one that I could have honestly done a better job right there was to have communicated that with my superiors and said, hey, here's what's going on. They're going to miss the target. Here's why they're going to miss the target. To keep them in the loop. But once I was able to tell them that, they're like, oh, well, that makes sense. When did they come back? I was like, they'll both be back in about a week. We're going to hit it for next month. It's not a matter of if, we're just going to do it and we'll probably make it up. And they did. That location did. They picked it up and finished out and had a great rest of the year. But ask before you accuse that. So instead of going in, why didn't you do it and why didn't it happen? Hey, what was going on? And this is part of your job as the leader. You get to set the tempo. You get to set the attitude and outcome of your company. They take that time to create and set a culture where it's okay to talk about missing the mark. But don't look at it as a bad thing. Our next that I had was teach ownership as the culture, not a moment. Okay. So the next way to be able to do this is to have weekly scorecards, have regular meetings that go through what are the clear expectations, have those KPIs or key performance indicators set out. So just have like, hey, here's how many phone calls I expect you to make. Here's how many widgets I expect you to do. In order to make 10 widgets, here are the steps to make a widget. So if we need to make 10 widgets, this means we need that 80 of whatever to get started, to get going. You have to be able to go through and know what are your key performance indicators to make that happen. And then normalize it. One that we used to do is we practiced and role played every day, every single day. And I don't care what industry you're in. I just got off of one. They're wanting me to lead the big regional call, regional presentation, regional conference that's this Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. So March the 5th. And make sure, and I'll drop that link in the chat below, and it's on all of my other stuff for the Sell More Offers event. So I asked, hey, let me host one. I hadn't hosted one before. I would really like to not make that my first one. And so, but as a former coach, that's what we did every single day. We practiced and role played every single day. The best sports teams in the world are practicing and role playing every single day. And so if those guys aren't too good to do it, and it's just a silly game, why aren't we not good enough to practice and role play every single day. Like, how do I answer a phone call? Because guess what? When you don't practice, that you don't stay sharp. So as we would do that, it became a culture where, hey, I know my teammate, my fellow employee, my coworker is going to be able to hear stuff and call me out on it. Another one that we used to do is we called them drive-bys, drive-by objections. So I mean, that was one they got me on it all the time because I was always in 4 million different worlds. They'd run by and say, "Hey, coach, your price is too high," and I'm like, "What? Oh, dang!" But how to handle objections? And they'd be like, "Man, I thought you always talking about being on top of your game. You got to be on." I'm like, "You're right. I got to be on top of my game." But you, the leader, have to be held that accountable as well. The next thing you can do is that address emotional maturity. And so we're talking about that some here as we go through that, but being able and willing to allow people to hold you accountable is just as important. Like, don't be afraid if they call you out. Like one that I'll get sometimes I'll get told, "Hey, you tell people too much. You're too transparent." But my team knew exactly where I was, what I was doing, when I was doing. If I was going to, because while we were racing, I would be like, "Hey, this weekend we're going to be in Dallas. If you need me, call me." 9 times out of 10, they didn't call me. They knew I was going to Dallas to go race with my son. If I told them we were going out of town for a week to go race at Minio's, they pretty much left me alone. Most of the time, if you've ever been to Minio's, you don't have cell phone service anyway, so it's not like they're contacting you. But I was always open about where I was going, what I was doing, so on and so forth. But then I was always open and available to receive feedback. I often met with my team and got that. So, I modeled what I expected. So if I brought them in and I would say, "Hey, be honest with me. Like, what are you seeing? How do I improve to help you? Where am I falling short with helping you?" And they would tell me. "Then, Mr. Aaron, you got 40,000 things going on. You got to drop some of those. Somewhat, they just bring it to like 39 million things instead of 40 million things." They knew where my weaknesses were. And so this is one where you as the leader, you've got to know you've got weaknesses too. But don't be afraid to let them tell you this. Don't be afraid to model that. And now, if you go through and you do all that, you bring them in, you separate from the identity, that you ask some curious questions just to try to find out, nothing attacking their character. They're really just trying to see what's going on. And then you have to come down to, after we've set those clear expectations, is this person coachable or not? I believe everybody gets a chance. It's one thing that I'll preach till the day I die is you always give everybody a chance. You give them a chance to change. Like, nothing great ever happens without change. But look and see, are they constantly repeating the same mistakes over and over again? Is it something that's intentionally that they're doing just to try to see what you'll do? And if it comes down that they're really just not willing to work with you, and to be held accountable and accept the standard that you're going to hold the rest of the team to. And that's key, is you got to be willing to hold the rest of the team to it. And so, I mean, if I'm going to hold, just because Twizzler keeps blowing up my TikTok feed, the Twizzler, they keeps showing up late and I never say anything about it. But then all of a sudden I say something to Tom. Well, Tom's would be like, "What about him?" And you don't want that. So if I'm going to hold Tom to a standard, I got to hold everybody to that standard. So make sure that you're doing that, but then decide if they're not coachable, if they're not going to work with you and they're going to cause the culture to collapse, then they got to go. You all, my I only had three rules whenever I was coaching. Rule number 1 was always protect the team. Like, if they're not protecting the team, they got to go. If it's going to be bad for the team, they got to go. So that was always rule number 1. Everything that you say, that you do, all of your actions affect the team. Rule number 2, no whining, no complaining, no excuses. Now, this wasn't mean like, we didn't win, so no. It means accepting responsibility, and we're not just going to shove it on the rug like, don't worry about why we didn't do that right there. No, attack and address each issue head on. And then number 3 was be early. They're either early or you're late. If you're on time, you're late, and late's forgotten. And so make sure that you have those. You're going to have to protect the culture at some point. If they will not get on board with you, you may have to ask them to leave. And that's okay. Because ultimately, protecting the team is more important than protecting the individual. And as a leader, that's what you have to realize and keep in mind, is that when you move into that leadership role, you give up the right to think about yourself. You no longer get to think of, I'm no longer thinking about Coach Clark. I've got to think about what's good for the rest of the team. What is good for them? And there's plenty of times where you see it and you go, man, I'm going to have to call the missus and she is not going to be happy. I'm going to be late because I got to do this because it's good for the team. Or I got to do this because it's going to be good for the team. So keep that in mind. It's always about the team. That we is bigger than me. We is bigger than me. And so as we're winding down and closing up, that people who are defensive, it isn't usually the big problem. Most of the time, there's unclear standards. There's unclear expectations. And there's an emotional leader behind it. You're coming in, you're attacking. Hey, why didn't y'all do this? You should have done that. And that if you fix those, you'll see that the defensiveness drops. And so if you're on here and you're wanting to learn more, and join a community that is inspired, that is made specifically to help grow leaders, go join my school community called Leadership Multipliers. That it's a community that right now it's free, but I am going to start charging a monthly payment for it to join in. That's where I'm going to start dropping a lot more in-depth messages and closer, because I want it to be a closer knit group, for us to be able to build each other up and to make connections. Also, make sure that you that you subscribe, you follow in the show, and then go ahead and I'm going to do that while we're here, while we're on. Let me pull. I'm going to drop this link in the chat. So for those of you who are on YouTube, I'm putting it in the chat. It's sellmorechallenges.beyondseen.com/attendee. So go click there, register. It's going to be a phenomenal. There are 10 different speakers that are going to be on. It's going to be jam-packed. I'm going to be leading it, be the panel host. So this is a great time for you to get on. And it's for the first 100, it's free. So if you're one of the first 100 to sign in and register, it's free. And so before I close, are there any questions? I know I still got some people popping in and out. I'm going to hold it open for just another 60 seconds. Also, if you're in the Baton Rouge area, you can catch me Thursday at lunch, Cheesecake Bistro on Bluebonnet. I'm going to be doing the Coaches Table Leadership Luncheon. The Coaches Leadership, I think that's what I called it. The Coaches Table Leadership Luncheon. That is what I called it. So hop on there. We'd love to have you join, but you will, and that's another one. I'm gonna drop this in the chat as well. Because if you would like to go, you will have to register for it. I only have 20 seats available. I know somebody has thank you. I don't know if that's more of a question or just a compliment, but thank you. Shout out to Once and Again, the Southern Families, putting together the new logo on the shirt with the green. That you will start seeing that. Like I'm going to be switching that to more of this, that bright colors. So yeah, if you're wanting to go, that you need to click on there. I don't know how many spots I have left available. I know I've had, the last I checked, does it even tell me on here? I thought it did, but I don't remember how to look. There we go. Nope. Yeah, so I know it's saying that I have 16 spots left, but there are 4 people that I've talked to that have already confirmed they're going. I'm trying to get them to go. If they don't fill it in, got to make sure that you do that. So if you're wanting to come, those are going to be the people that get there. And I'm hoping I don't have to turn anybody away because it makes me feel bad. Yeah, but I'll do it if I have to. Yes. Yeah. Thanks. I do love the green too. So I'm trying to find my wife, and guys, that if y'all know my wife, I am trying to convince her to come on and do a recording. That I think it would be awesome. That if y'all would like drop some love in there and like, hey, like, yes, Dawn, we want you to do it. I think it would be cool to have some, I don't know what I would call it, the woman behind the man, or whatever cool stuff. But I've got some other cool things that I'd like to do as we're on this journey and going through and developing our own company, building our own business, and just kind of hear from her side that what it's been like from the female side. That I also plan on, as soon as they were able to get in and record again, I'll be, that you saw Joey DuPont on here. He does Tenacious Entrepreneur. He wants to get me on and really go through the start of a new company, which if you haven't done one, it's pretty scary. Yes, we want Donnie, and just trying to follow you as I'm going started. We talked about it. Don't stay step. They're trying to make sure I follow God's plan. So definitely make sure, if you're wanting to go to that leadership lunch, or if you want to, I was going to say, well, she's not here today, so that'd be really hard as she's teaching a dance class right now. That's kind of why I do the lives, that she's not here. But I do want to get her on and record one. I think it'd be cool. Plus, it's Women's Month, so why wouldn't I want my woman on here for Women's Month, right? So, and it would be right smack dab in the middle of the month. That's where she is. She's the heart and soul. So we got to get her. So y'all. So I know both of y'all have her number. They blow her up. Start making I know everybody on here pretty much has her number, so start blowing her up. Start telling her she needs to come on the show. That don't be a scaredy cat. That we are gonna on. This is the sneak peek for those of you who are still on here. Our guest for next week's podcast. So this week's podcast, that is Renee Manfrey, one of my mentors and friends. He's gonna be one of the keynotes for Thursday night. So you want to get on there and listen to Renee. So if you listen to Renee already, he's gonna be a little bit more confined. So he's going to bring a lot more energy. So Renee, have a great friend. Look, I actually need to call him whenever I get off here. But he's on with today's, and he talks. I love it. His motto is just do the work. Just do the work. I love it. We can eat Cheetos later. Do the work now. We can eat Cheetos later. We can hang out later. I mean, I know that kind of goes a little bit different from what we're talking about. But next week's guest, because y'all are on here, and those of you that stayed on, is going to be, she's Molly Sarton, the owner of Molly Myers Dance Academy. One of our longtime friends. So you got to actually, her brother was on the show. He's the first year head coach at Live Oak High School. So he came on back in the summer as we were talking about getting ready. He's going to come back. He's agreed to come back on in again after the season, just to talk about, what to compare, now that you've gone through the first season. But I've known Molly for, good night, I don't know, 30 years, something like that. Probably not that long, but 25 years at least. So y'all are going to love that one. We've got some fun cameos that are going to start coming out this weekend that we did. It was a lot of fun. So definitely make sure you tuned in for that. There's a lot of laughs, but Molly's story is so inspiring. And it's one of those that I would say, I don't, because everybody on here, I would say, pretty much knows me. Y'all know I'm not the greatest planner. If I had to describe how I do things, it's more of a ready, fire again. Evaluate the situation, fire, check it. Okay, yep, maybe I should change. So not very a whole lot of detailed plans. Yes, Molly is awesome. But it's just kind of funny how all this kind of started coming throughout, how I organized it, with a lot of it being with Molly coming out at the start of towards the beginning of the Women's Month. So I don't do a whole lot. I'm trying to bring another phenomenal guest, and Anna Tran, who's going to come on later at the month, and I'll finish out the month if all goes. So yeah, it'd be Dawn Ginger, so Ginger Murray, another one of my mentors. She's phenomenal. She's a real estate agent. Great story. And I actually let Ginger watch her episode because she didn't want to come on and do it. She told me not to do it. And so I was like, well, Ginger, I'll let you watch it and then you'll decide. And she's like, oh, it was great. But posted anyways. And so if I can get, Molly, Dawn, Ginger, Anna, and then one of my good friends from college, that old Wilkes, as I like to call him, Kyle Wilkes is his name, from Vidalia, Georgia. He calls me Blue Cheese, and we go into more depth on why he calls me Blue Cheese, and I'm not going to ruin it for you because his side of the story is pretty funny. So, all right, if y'all don't have any other questions, I'm in here running my mouth long enough. I mean, I like to think I'm awesome, but I am not that awesome. So anything else, I'm going to close it out. If y'all don't have anything, I'm 30 seconds. If I could put a timer on here, countdown clock. And so I just saw one of those lunch spots did get taken. So if you're wanting to go to lunch, another one did get taken. So with that, guys, remember, you don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. So keep leading, keep learning, keep connecting, and I'll see you on the next episode of Ask the Coach. Bye, everybody.